wonderful witches. Welcome to my enchanted corner of the internet, and today we are going to be discussing the occult tea hashtag. Basically, this is a hashtag that was created by, I believe her name is Ella Harrison, and I will leave her information down below where you can watch the original video and get an idea of what it is about. But basically it is a conversation within the witchy community about the social media and its effects on witchcraft and the witch community. So I have broken this down into 3 parts. They cover various topics that have been bugging me about the witchcraft community for a while. And starting things off, let's just jump right into it. Grifters and Consumerism. Now, if you're not aware, I am a witchy business owner. I sell self-help books, cozy fantasy books, and oracle decks of my own creation that help people grow in their self-healing and witchy journeys. That's basically what I do. So I go to different events, I meet different witchy vendors, and I am a part of my own personal witchy community full of amazing creators and witches alike. So I am very intimate when it comes to grifters and consumerism in my practice. Specifically, fraudulent practices within our community, such as people who are just jumping onto this niche to make an extra buck and aren't aware of the implications of what they're selling. Sometimes these are people who are selling noxious herbs without first providing the information of how dangerous these herbs are. These are people who are selling closed practice items that they should not be selling because 1, they are not part of that closed practice, and 2, they shouldn't be selling something that is part of a closed practice. And then 3, it's selling things while not being educated themselves enough to know what they are selling. That is some of the problems I have with the consumerism aspect, that these are people that are just jumping onto a niche to make a quick buck on unsuspected customers and students and people who are authentically interested in the community and wanting to learn from the community. The next thing is the scamming aspect of it. I have so many friends who have wonderful followings, wonderful communities that they have built within their own space. The issue is because of that popularity, there also comes the price of scammers. I can't tell you how many times I have gone on and searched my friends' businesses and found duplicate accounts who are selling things that have nothing to do with their practice. This is really big in the divination community, but if you have witch attached to your name, assume that someday, if you reach a good enough following, someone out there will try and scam people with readings. I get messages from people all the time about it, and I have friends who vent to me about it. It is incredibly frustrating for you to work hard and build a business that has certain values to it, and then have some person on the internet try and use your name and your business to make a quick buck. That damages your reputation and your following, and not only that, it also leaves a bitter taste in your mouth because this person just took all the energy that you've put into this business and used it against you. It's that kind of thing that really frustrates me, is the people who are taking advantage of other people's successes to try and make a few extra bucks. The other thing about consumerism is how it latches on to a certain aesthetic regarding witchcraft. And a lot of it is around like Harry Potter and 90s witchy movies and TV shows like Charmed and Buffy, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and don't get me wrong, I love a good 90s witchy thing, okay? I grew up in the 90s. These shows are iconic, and they kind of started me off on my path of becoming a witch. I didn't even know there was an option for witchcraft until I watched Willow in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But it's the toxicity that comes with creating a certain aesthetic that damages other people, other witches, from being their authentic selves. Which leads us into number 2, which is aesthetics and imposter syndrome. As I mentioned earlier, the majority of people who think of witches think of practical magic. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the 90s version, although the reiterated version by Netflix is much darker and probably more closer to the aesthetic that witches are assumed to have nowadays. Basically, dark, whimsy, goth look. And if you're not that type of witch, then you are the green, cottagecore, mossy, earthy witch. And these are the 2 big aesthetics that you see are popularized on social media. They are the ones that get the clicks, they are the ones that get the likes, and they are the ones that get the follows. If you are not dark 90s cutesy goth, or the earth hippie bohemian forest witch, generally people don't consider you part of the witch community. They consider you part of the spiritual community, but not the witch community. And this is a big problem for me, because I am not whimsy goth, and I am not forest witchy core. I am pastel. And my window, it's getting bright, so give me 1 second, let me fix this light. So if you don't fit into the whimsy goth, and you don't fit into the bohemian cottagecore fantasy forest witch, you generally aren't seen as someone within the community. And I'm speaking from experience here. I am pastel, I am taupe, I am cozy, I am grandma most days. And I love a good gardening, and I love a good skull and bone collection, but I am not either of those aesthetics. I am an Galinda and not an Elphaba. And that was one thing that was said to my face a long time ago that really sat with me and really festered for a little bit. I help witches on their path to becoming witches. It's my calling. It's my passion. I share my knowledge. I share my experience, and I hate it when someone says you don't fit the witchy aesthetic. Because witchy aesthetic, it was created for consumerism. Every witch is going to be different. Every witch's aesthetic is going to be different. When I was younger and I was told, you are Galinda and we're looking for Elphabas, I felt hurt. I felt unwanted within a community that I thought was supposed to be open-minded and welcoming. Now I hold that to my heart, and I am proud of it, because should I dim my authenticity, which is the whole point of being a witch, is to be your authentic, true, and honest self in your practice to help others be their true, authentic selves. Why should I change my authenticity to suit someone else's aesthetic? I am proud to be a Galinda, because there are so many Elphabas out there who aren't being their authentic selves because they want to fit in. But the whole point of being a witch is being authentic. So yeah, I'm going to be a Galinda. I'm sorry. I'm going to have my butterflies on my wall. I am going to dress in pastels, and I am going to walk around with butterfly pens, because that's just who I am. That's just what I do. That makes me no less a witch than whimsy goth forest witch. It's just a different aspect of witchcraft. But because of this aesthetic, it kind of creates this toxic expectation for other witches who aren't fitting either of these aesthetics to try and fit into those aesthetics. Especially when you're in a social media space where you're trying to bring awareness to a practice only to not fit into the two that are deemed the popular options. With that said, coming with those popular options, that also limits those within the community who don't fit into those to become more visible within the community to try and break those stereotypes. So when you also are in a social media sphere trying to be a voice for the community and trying to break the general aesthetic of the whimsy goth forest witch, it leads to imposter syndrome, because if I don't fit these two, am I actually good enough to be in this space? Am I actually a witch if I don't fit into these two? Is my stuff valid enough if I don't fit into these two? Seeing all these other creators and how brilliant they are, I know for a fact they don't know everything. I know for a fact that they're picking and choosing their information to share, because that's what social media is. It's little aspects of someone's life being shared up on a screen. It's little aspects of someone's existence that they want to share with you. Even though these people seem to be experts, even though these people seem to know what they're talking about, and chances are they do, it always sits with me when I see it and go, I don't know that, therefore I have no right to share what I do know. And I think that isn't a healthy way of looking at it. But because we live in a world where everybody's sharing anything and everything, everybody seems to be experts and everybody looks to be experts, it's very hard for certain people within the community to feel like they can speak out about it or speak about the community, because maybe they don't feel like they know everything, that they know enough, or that they are important enough to share, have enough followers to share this information. And to that I go, as someone who just came out of a imposter syndrome spiral after 2 weeks and a lot of shadow workings, shadow work is great, but it's given me a different perspective about all I can say, all I can do is share my authentic truth, me, what I know, what I've researched, what I'm aware of, with the rest of you. I can't control what they do. I can't control what they say. I can't control what they create. All I can do is know that what I'm sharing with you is authentic, is well researched, and is hopefully helpful for you on your path. That's all I can control. With social media always out there, you're always going to be making comparisons. But what I can control is what I create here and what I share here. And I'm not going to spit that witchy aesthetic. I am going to be my butterfly grandma, cozy, book-loving, knowledge-sharing self. Because that's who I am. And that's what I do. And that's what I like to do. And the whole point of being a witch is being authentically you. Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a constant battle. But with more people talking about it, more conversation will come around it. And I know for a fact, there are so many creators, especially on the social media forum, especially within the witchy community, that have discussed imposter syndrome, that have discussed the authenticity before, and the aesthetic, before this whole hashtag thing came to be. And if you're in the social media sphere, imposter syndrome just comes with it, because you're constantly comparing yourself to other creators so you can create things that will attract people in to watch. It is something that we work through to try and be more authentic for you and to be more transparent with you. Speaking of which brings us to number 3. Community. Despite the grifters and the consumerism, and despite the aesthetics and the imposter syndrome, I think one of the best things that social media has done for the witchy community is the community. Because I remember when I first started practicing how isolated I felt. I thought I was the only witchy kid, and I probably wasn't, but because I grew up in a very small community and a very religious community, it was not something you talked about. And as I grew older and as I became more into my craft and as the internet blossomed, the witchy community came with it. I am so happy to see so many beautiful, wonderful creators out there who are knowledgeable and willing to share their information with the world. And I love the engagement in a lot of these communities where people are sharing and teaching and growing together on their paths, because it just makes me feel so good as someone who felt so isolated in my practice to know that there are so many of us out there. With TikTok comes a lot of false magic and a lot of misinformation and a lot of promising expectations and under-delivering results. There is a whole generation, whole group of new witches who are coming into their power and coming into themselves and being able to be open about their practice. And there's a lot less of us in the broom closet. And even those in the broom closet, they have a lot more resources now than what a old broom closeted witch had to work with. And even then there's community within the communities. We are a collective community in the witchy community online, but there are small groups within those communities that work together to grow and develop and create such wonderful things. It just warms my little heart. It just warms my little heart to see how different 10, 15 years has made this community, has changed this community. There's so much more resources. There's good resources and not so good resources, unfortunately, but those that are knowledgeable within the community, those that are willing to teach and share within the community, they help vet the not so great versus the great, and it's not something to be afraid of anymore. It's not something to keep quiet or be ashamed of. I'm a witch, deal with it. And I love it. I love it because, again, witchcraft is authenticity. Being able to be your true self in a safer space, but what's better than that? So, with that said, my wonderful witchies, Thank you for listening to this very long video. It's very unusual for me to have a video this long, but with that said, may your magic grow with all the love in your life. And until next time, stay safe, stay magical, and as always, have the day that you deserve. Toodles for now.